Hi, I'm Eric Ford for Made Here. Every year on Made Here, we feature film work from the students at Champlain College. There's always fantastic films being made by the students, and this year is no exception. 3 short documentaries feature a look at sheep farming history and practice in Vermont, how guitars are crafted locally, and a trip to Ireland from the Champlain College Dublin campus. You can watch the 2024 Champlain College Student Showcase and other great Made Here films streaming on our website and through the PBS app. Enjoy the films, and thanks for watching.
First step is talking to the customer and seeing, what kind of guitar they want it to sound like, and then we put the wood choices together for sound, and then it's all about how do you want it to look and feel and play and sound.
The short version of how to make a guitar is cut up the wood, get it dimensioned just right.
Once the body's together, then it goes onto the neck. The neck gets set on here and needs to be at the right pitch. Otherwise, the strings might sit too high or too low.
Prep it for finish it, polish the finish.
And then it'll go to the setup room, which is where it gets the strings, it gets the nut and the saddle slot, all set.
And then there's the wiring up the electronics, putting it all together, playing it, doing the setup, and then taking pictures of it and sending it off to the client and hoping they're happy. Moved to Burlington in 1996, and I've been playing guitar kind of casually for, 6 or 7 years prior to that, but also as a day job cutting up wood, and I realized I could merge those two things. It was sort of a, why didn't I think of this sooner kind of epiphany.
It's been a long journey to get here. I started as a guitar player, I guess, when I was in 5th grade. My family owned a manufacturing company in New York, and then moved up to Burlington in 2012. And that's when I really started, making more instruments under the Circle Strings brand name. Those were, custom-made one-off guitars for players that were, pretty expensive and highly detailed. I guess about 2017, 18, my friend Pat was working with me, and he said, why don't you try and make a guitar that's, a little cheaper? And that's when I started the Iris brand.
Playing on a stage somewhere, people would take note of it and realize it wasn't just like an off-the-rack guitar and come and ask them about it afterwards. Those people would look me up. And so I sort of went from just like a basement hobby to having a full-time job inside of a year.
Trey was, well, when I built the first guitar for him, he wasn't famous, but he became famous. And I can't put a price on that, really, And he's a successful player. People love their instruments. I don't know, for some reason, maybe guitars, they're a little bit anthropomorphized in some ways. If that makes sense, that people have more of like a relationship like they might have with a pet or something like that. I don't know.
Gentleman came in last year and fell in love with an Iris guitar and ended up buying it and taking it home. And then he came back a couple months later and was thinking more and more about building out his collection further and getting something custom built for himself that was a little higher end. And so we started talking about circle strings, and then it was off to the races.
His name, it starts with a J. It's Jonathan. I won't say his last name, but he He approached us and asked us to build him a pretty special guitar out of old growth cedar for the top. And he really wanted to use the back and sides of a figured mahogany from a special tree from Belize called the tree.
The tree. The tree is it's a enormous mahogany tree that was felled back in the 70s. Took them years to figure out how to get it out of the jungle, and it sort of has this mythical quality for multiple reasons. I think one is that it's beautiful. It's this beautiful figured mahogany, and I've seen other figured mahogany, but none that's quite as beautiful and consistent as the tree is. There's not much of it left that isn't unmilled or turned into something already. So that part of this, the rarity, the scarcity, drives a lot of the prices of tone woods in particular for guitar building. We have an unmilled piece of it that was about 6 figures. So it's Will Hilton is doing the neck and inlay. Nick Durkee is the one who did the body build that you saw. And Will Esther will be doing the neck set. Andy Arizosa will be doing the finish. And Storm Gates will be doing the final setup on it.
So the acoustic guitar body is comprised of basically 3 main parts. The top, the back, and the sides are formed through a pretty simple process involving heat and water to loosen up the fibers of the wood enough to allow us to bend it over a shape or mold of the guitar that we're working on, then ready to be taken out and be put into a separate mold called a boxing mold. Another way we can adjust the stiffness of a top is by adding braces to the inside of it in certain areas. And again, the goal there is just to add stiffness to the parts where you want it, but when you add braces, what you're also doing is adding weight. So what you want to do is then go in and carve away weight from the braces while still trying to maintain the strength that they're giving the top. The back goes through kind of a similar process. That strength to weight ratio isn't as important. You just want the back to be just solid. So once those 3 main parts are done, they can be assembled together in a process called boxing up, or actually assembling the body together. And we'll add material called kerfing or lining around the edges of the sides for extra surface area and a little bit of extra strength too. And everything will be lined up. The top and back will be lined up on center with the head and end block, and they'll be sandwiched together in a press. And once that is all dried up, they can be taken out of the press, it can be taken out of the mold the final time. The top and back usually have a little bit of a lip, so that'll be routed flush with the sides, and then once that's flush, the entire sides along with the edges and top and back. Once the binding is done, everything will be leveled and sanded flat and flush with each other. And then from there, it'll move on to Will, and he'll take care of the next set.
I'm the head CNC operator, programmer, engineer at the shop. Most modern guitar shops are gonna have some form of CNC capabilities. CNC stands for computer numeric control. It's essentially a computer-guided robotic machine. You feed information to the machine, and in turn it can create parts for you. There's 2 main types of software you're going to need for CNC. One is CAD software, and the other is CAM software. CAD stands for computer-aided design, and CAM stands for computer-aided machining. With those programs, you are essentially drawing geometry, engineering the geometry on how you want it to work, and you can essentially create parts with the CNC from there. What we're doing in the CNC realm is subtractive machining, so you're starting with a larger object and milling it down to the desired shape you need. You see me engraving the neck blank first, which is laying out all of the information that I'm going to need. From there, it's flipped and machined precisely to the exact angles and specifications I need. From there, it's carved, and once it's measured, my job is complete. The part is inspected, measured, and then handed off to Will Esther, who's going to be fitting the guitar.
Yeah, so the first thing I do is when I get the neck, I kind of carve out a little hollow in the heel area. Then I just pull sandpaper through until it matches the heel of the neck up with the body as tightly as possible, and dial in all of my measurements so that the strings are gonna run straight across the neck and not be too high, not be off-centered. Glue the fretboard on, and then route the slots and start carving and sanding it. After I'm done with it, then I go put it on the shelf, and Andy will finish sand out the body, mask everything off, and then start spraying color and get some build coats on there.
I get the necks from Will Esther and just prepare them to get, color and clear, a protective clear coat finish. So that's a lot of, masking off the portions that we don't want to have color or clear coat on, and then laying the stain down into the wood directly and applying the sealer and clear coat over the top of that color. With spray equipment, usually you get about anywhere from 12 to 18 coats with sanding in between. We let it sit for a couple of weeks after all the coats have been applied, and then it gets a polish treatment with very high grit sandpapers, and then I hand the instrument off to Storm to be assembled and set up.
Yeah, so first it comes in parts, it's all taped up. I remove the tape and make sure I don't lift any of the lacquer that Andy has so lovingly gotten ready. Then you put the neck and the body together. I check the set of the neck and the bridge height, get it all glued up, and then it goes into fingerboard planing and plec, which it scans, measures all the high and low spots on the fingerboard and gives it a perfect radius, which is a very important part of the process using that machine. And then it's time for appointments like tuners, nut and saddle, carving those by hand. And at that point, it gets strung up. Yeah, then it's going to be scanned again under the plec. So it's all scanned under tension, and the plec goes through and measures the frets this time and grinds those all down so you have a perfect plain fingerboard, machine perfect, yeah. Once it's all plecked and we'll polish the frets, I'll give it a quick QC, put it in a case, and ship it off to the customer. It's all good to go.
This is going to sound kind of weird, but it does make me feel sort of powerful. Not in a gross way. It's like wearing, a piece of beautiful jewelry or something. Although I don't wear a lot of jewelry, but I would wear this guitar as a piece of jewelry. This guitar will rarely go out of tune. That was a big thing for me. I said, that's probably my number one thing, even compared to anything else. I just want it to be really solid so it doesn't go out of tune easily. I was really trusting Kristen and giving him my thoughts about what I like to play. I would send him sounds of guitars. He would send me sounds with different pickups, what they sounded like. I knew I wanted something a little more intense sounding, I guess. Just every detail, there was every detail, even, what color I wanted the pick guard to be and what type of pick guard, and just every detail he asked me about. And of course I have my engraving. You probably heard this from a lot of musicians, I'm very socially awkward generally, actually. When I'm on stage and connecting with people in that way, this sort of circle of an unspoken sort of energy that happens, I feel more at home or more comfortable in the world than any other time, which is really weird, I guess.
I'd say every week we get an email from somebody new who said, we got a guitar, I've been looking for a guitar like this my whole life that I could afford, and most of them are either too expensive or just I haven't connected with. So when somebody says, I've been playing guitar for 30, 40 years and I picked up your guitar and connected immediately and had to buy it, there's nothing better. Nothing better. When Trey Anastasio from Phish got his guitar, the day he got it, he came here and just said he loved it so much and connected with it immediately, and gave the whole shop a little acoustic concert with it. So that was definitely the best feeling I've ever had. He texted me the other day saying this will be my lifelong guitar and I'll never have another one, and what could be better than that?
When you think about Vermont's staple industries, you probably think of maple syrup, dairy, or craft beer. But in the mid-1800s, Vermont's biggest product was wool. Looking at Vermont today, with its dense forests, steep slopes, and harsh winters, it's hard to imagine that it could have ever been home to open green pastures dotted with fluffy sheep. Even more surprising is that nestled in those mountains, there's still a passionate, close-knit community of sheep farmers, shearers, and spinners, continuing this historic process so deeply intertwined with this state's environment and its culture. It all starts with merino sheep. Centuries of selective sheep breeding in the Iberian Peninsula led to the merino, a breed with soft, fine, superior quality wool, and lots of it. The Spanish had every intention to keep these sheep for themselves, but when Napoleon invaded in the early 1800s, they were forced to export. The first place to get them in the United States was Vermont.
At the time, this guy by the name of William Jarvis was U.S. consul to Lisbon, Portugal. Apparently he had a good eye for sheep, so he brought some of the finest merino ewes and rams he had and had them shipped back to his farm in Wethersfield, Vermont.
In the 19th century, Vermont looked very different. The forests had been cut for lumber, leaving vast green pastures, perfect for raising sheep. Vermont's settlers already had sheep, but the wool was coarse and scratchy. The merino wool's fine texture was unlike anything they had felt. And thus came the Vermont sheep boom. Between 1824 and 1840, the population quadrupled to 1.6 million sheep, an average of 6 per person. These sheep produced 3.7 million pounds of wool, which all had to be processed at mills. In 1836, there were 33 mills. The next year, there were 334.
And then in the 1820s, raising sheep became the primary agriculture enterprise in the state. And in the 1930s, merino were the state's principal livestock.
So what happened? As it turns out, there are better places than Vermont for sheep. Sheep need land to graze, but they can't do that during Vermont's long, harsh winters. They also need shelter and supplemental feed, which costs money. Eventually, the Erie Canal and the railroads connected New England to the western United States, where huge swaths of land make it possible for sheep to graze year-round.
Of course, then the Vermonters couldn't compete.
Today, the West is still the easiest and cheapest place to raise sheep. Plus, the government subsidizes the land, allowing farms to raise flocks in the tens of thousands. The entire state of Vermont only has 17,000 sheep, and they're scattered on sheep farms throughout the state, ranging from small to tiny. In Berlin, Kristen Gallagher and her family raise sheep on the Dodge farm.
We've been here on this farm for 14 years, and I have worked on farms for 25 years.
There are some border Leicester. Those are the ones without fuzzy faces. They are much more friendly than the merinos. We have chickens, cows, sheep, and 2 cats. This is one of my favorite sheep because she is so friendly and she is very curious.
At Dodge Farm, the sheep are raised for fiber. Once a year, Mary Lake comes to shear the flock. Kristen used to take her wool to mills around New England, but the turnaround time was too long, and the wool would often get mixed with other breeds. So, Kristen started Aurora Spinnery.
It was obvious to me that there's a need for this scale mill in New England because a lot of people have small flocks and specialty breeds that they don't want mixed with other wool.
Thanks to all this machinery, Kristen and her family are able to process wool exactly how they like. Much of the equipment is for cleaning the wool and improving its texture, resulting in bags and even rooms full of fluff.
Yesterday we had a batch that was so staticky it stuck to the ceiling, the walls, and the door.
One of the things that's really great about this equipment is that we don't just make yarn. We make lots of different products to try to offer different avenues to use that wool.
Aurora Spinnery makes yarn in a wide variety of sizes and colors.
And then here you've got a skein of yarn.
For Kristen, it takes about a week to process her entire flock's wool. For most of the year, Kristen works with other small flock farmers from around Vermont.
Out in the east, we've said, okay, well, let's have heritage breeds, Icelandic, Shetland, lots and lots of breeds, but different colors. And so now you can have yarns that look great without dyeing and appeal to a wide range of knitters that appreciate the variety and they appreciate things coming from a small farm.
Yeah, wasn't that long ago that you were a baby, huh? You like the idea of some milk?
But Vermont farmers aren't all raising unique breeds for artisan yarn. Processing wool is costly. For many farmers, it's more profitable to raise sheep for meat, mutton, and lamb. Chet Parsons' farm in Richford actually started out as a cattle dairy farm.
So this is the Parsons farm. It's been in the Parsons family since 1919. My grandfather bought it.
An experienced farmer, Chet started teaching about livestock at the University of Vermont Extension in 1985. But the job required knowledge of more than just cows.
But I didn't know much about sheep, so I went out and bought a flock of 30. I mean, I jumped right in.
Chet only just retired from sheep farming, selling his flock to Shelburne Farms in 2023. And for all those years, they weren't raised for fiber. They were raised for meat. Looking at the economics, it's not hard to understand why. In Vermont, mills buy raw merino wool for around $6 a pound. The sheep only get shorn once a year, and that produces only 8 to 10 pounds of wool. So that amounts to about $60 per sheep per year. And that's for merino wool. Meat breeds have far lower quality wool, which isn't worth much. The wool from Chet's last shearing season sits in his barn, unused.
The wool is considered, a byproduct or something that is not highly valuable. Some of the medium to coarse grade wool is still useful. I mean, it's this amazing antimicrobial product that can be used in many different ways. So a lot of people do want to raise fiber sheep too.
The challenge? Turning wool into yarn is a labor-intensive, time-consuming process. If farmers want to sell the product themselves, they have to pay mills for their services, then figure out how to market their product on their own, while managing the finances of raising the sheep.
So I figure out my food costs for the winter, and my shearing costs, and the mill costs. So I know a skein costs me X amount, and then I price it accordingly.
There's no lack of demand for yarn. During the COVID-19 pandemic, many people took up knitting and crochet. But this new customer base isn't flocking to local wool. It's easier and cheaper to buy from craft store chains, who mostly sell yarn made from plastic. A normal ball of acrylic yarn costs around $5, while a skein of Aurora Spinnery's plain white wool is $30.
Plastic or rayon, any sort of synthetic processing of fiber to make yarn has huge environmental costs. We pay those costs in other ways, to our health, to the detriment of our waterways, of our land.
For many years, Matt Becker has worked in environmental cleanup for the Vermont Agency of Natural Resources. 2 years ago, when COVID-19 had him working from home, he bought 6 merino sheep. from the same New York farm as Kristen Gallagher.
Life is short and I wanted to learn something new, and being in Vermont is an excellent opportunity to learn anything agricultural or farming related because we still have those lands available to us.
Matt is already planning to expand his flock.
And what I can do is I need to start introducing these girls to, they're in their last month of pregnancy, so they need to start getting a little bit of grain. So we're gonna give them oats. I'm trying to make it more than a hobby, yes. Having said that, now that I have them, and I have so few of them, they are principally pets. Hi, sweetheart. Okay. All right, let me in. There we go. Well, I was surprised to learn that they all have personalities, just like your dogs or cats do. You got your shy one, you got your fence jumper, they all have their own little thing.
Vermont's small but passionate community of fiber producers provide a powerful support network for each other. But getting started is still a tough road to tread.
Everybody's really encouraging and offers advice, but what I have realized is that we've lost a lot of institutional knowledge just about sheep and farming. People like myself are learning it over again. Yeah, and sometimes we meet people like Chet and Mary Lake and Kristen who can fill in those blanks.
The bitter cold, snow, and ice serve as a yearly reminder that raising sheep in Vermont isn't and never was easy. But every year, the field will thaw.
Come on, girls. Come on.
And with the arrival of spring comes new life.
My name is Liz Gillis. I'm an historian and I'm an author, specialising in the Irish Revolution 1916 to 1923, but I'm from the Liberties in Dublin.
When you visit the Liberties, you're visiting the real old Dublin.
The whole history of Dublin is based in the Liberties.
There's nowhere like this place on earth. The Liberties is a village, and Meath Street is the living heart of the village.
This is literally where I grew up. The Liberties is in my blood, and I was literally born a stone's throw from where we are now. Gentrification becomes a problem in the Liberties. It was after the Celtic Tiger collapse. So the Celtic Tiger, which was this huge phenomenon where we believed or thought that we had all this money and this massive building, an explosion of construction happened from the late 90s up to 2008, and all of a sudden businesses are closing or they've been getting sold off, and people are wondering what's happening.
My name's Michael Norton. Norton's. Greengrocer, third generation. We're in our 75th year this year, and I don't know if it'll be here for my son when he grows up. Times are changing. food's being delivered by drone these days, so we'll see how long more we can get out of it, you know. Personally, I've been on the street 22 years. When I started on this street, there was 5 greengrocers and about 7 butchers. We're now down to 1 greengrocer and 3 butchers. So things have gotten tough for a lot of small businesses.
The Liberties, which was labelled as an area of disadvantage. I grew up with that label all the time, all through my life. Now it's going through this massive period of gentrification, and the price tag has increased hugely, which means that the people who want to keep their roots in the Liberties, who have their roots in the Liberties, are being pushed out.
Every day, every single day, I'll have people coming in asking me, do I know of anywhere that they can rent a house or apartment, or because the supply just isn't there.
There has been a dramatic increase in house prices because the Liberties, as I was just mentioning with the map, is actually very close to the city. It's a good thing and it's a bad thing.
What should be a staple for everybody should be able to afford is fruit and vegetables. At this moment in time, I've never seen prices as high as they are. So what you see opening up now is nail bars and coffee shops, and where years ago it would have been more of your traditional fruit and veg stores and a real market kind of street.
And people come from all over to do their shopping in the Liberties, be it in Meath Street, the Liberty Market. People came from everywhere to go to the Liberty Market, which is still there, but again, it's just not as busy as it used to be. On Thomas Street, like Frawley's, where highlight student accommodation is now, like again, people come from all over the country to go to Frawley's.
Students come from abroad and their parents are very often wealthy and they can afford to buy into the apartments that are coming on stream in the area.
So what we saw happening with gentrification was that the existing community was being ignored, and decisions were being made for a future community that wasn't going to put down roots. There was a closure of very vital community amenities that happened to facilitate either the building of student accommodation or to put in other services like home services and so on. There was no interaction with the people, there was no communication with the people.
Fine Gael have built more houses than most previous governments, but there seems to be a lot of just talk, meetings and jargon, and it's action that's needed.
Well, I'm Daryl OBrien. I'm the Minister with responsibility for housing, local government and heritage, amongst other things. And we want more people living in our cities, and the Liberties is a proper community. It's like a village within the city, and as you rightly say, is one of the most historical parts of Dublin. One of the complaints that residents in the Liberties have had specifically, and this predated me, it was a legacy issue, was the predominance of, let's say, student type accommodation. Look, that's why we're investing heavily in social and affordable housing. This government, myself as Minister, have never invested so much. It's about €5 billion this year. We've some very good schemes.
They're knocking down all these buildings and they're replacing them just with glass. Just soulless buildings, you know? And then a city loses its identity that way, because if you have everything the same, what makes it unique? What makes a city unique? You know, so that's what we have with the Liberties. The people are still here, the community is still here, despite the efforts of some, it seems.
Who are you referencing when you say so?
I would be the people who make decisions for the city.
It's a very sought after area, so you've seen house prices when homes are come up for sale being out of the reach of a lot of people. We've got to make sure, and I've got to do my level best to try to help people who are from the area as best as possible, that they'll have opportunities to stay.
The changes that have been made to the Liberties, there hasn't been a lot of interaction with the community. There hasn't been a lot of, conversations between the community, asking the community what they would like. They certainly don't tell you they're going to take away the stuff. That's it. They just do it. And you're meant to accept that. That's wrong.
I could use one example of the Ivy Markets in the Liberties too, where we've but significant funding just very recently, about €9 million I've granted to rejuvenate that, what was a wonderful building there.
Like, imagine if we had it back. And it's so big, you could do so many things with it. Like have the market space, but then have, you know, an event space.
Well, like, otherwise, what are they going to do? Leave it there for another 20 years?
Yeah. This is the iconic ivy marker, and as you can see, it's just all boarded up. But this would have been once a thriving part of the Liberties. This was going to be redeveloped, great plans that you'd have, like, you know, a reinvigorated market, and then it never happened. Is this the work starting? Oh my God. Hiya.
Work on it. Yeah.
Is it? Oh, good.
Thank you.
Well, they might be starting work on it.
So it's starting to actually make a difference. A lot of people are starting to feel that now. There's a lot more to do in that space because there's been a pent-up demand for a decade that effectively, I believe, that was in real terms lost. We've had a big focus on trying to drive development in our cities, and that's something that is actually happening now, but needs to accelerate.
I do miss the Liberties, I have to say. Even though I've only moved like a 10-minute walk from here, it's not the Liberties. Just saying hello to people, having a chat. I suppose I really, really got to know the value of the people in the Liberties. Hey Margaret, how's it going? How's James? Tell him I said hello, will you? Tell him I said hello. Hey Michael, how are you going? How are you doing? You all right?
People have lost the art of conversation. And even there, like stopping, like even talking to yourself there today, Liz, like you've brought sunshine to my day because I was preoccupied with, say, go here, go there. See, the secret of life is this, that poverty will always hide itself, but say arrogance will always display itself.
So you can see the change, and change isn't necessarily a bad thing, it can be a good thing. But we'll wonder if we'll still be around here in another 20 years, you know?
Is there anything else you want to talk about or cover?
I think so. Do you think we've got everything?
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that's all my questions.
Hashtag love the Liberties.
Hashtag love the Liberties.
It's 2 stars, Michael.
Sunglasses now.
How are you going?
I'm good all as well.
Busy?
Forward to Easter, you know.
Fantastic. That's
that okay?
All the questions I have for
Brilliant.
you. I would love if I have just like an extra minute or two to
Yeah.
get a shot of you walking down the hall.
The demographic of most of the antique shop owners is, to be polite about it, pretty much nearly all north of 60, and some of them much older. And there's not too much, there's a couple coming in, but not too much new. I think we've still got a couple of decades in it.
Good to see you, John, in the Liberties. I'm sorry I missed you earlier on to have a chat with you, but you're in God's own country. There's nowhere like this place on earth. The Liberties is a village, and Mead Street is the living heart of the village.
I'm going to go biblical on you now, and it's this: many are called and few are chosen, and you are one of the chosen ones.
Would you go away? You'll have me crying in a minute.
That's all
Go
right.
away.
Vermont Public, partnering with local filmmakers to bring you stories made here. For more, visit vermontpublic.org.